Friday. Happy Friday. Woo! Okay, so before we start, give me 1 second. All right, so yesterday we did that. We looked at, right? We went back in time. Where is it? We went back in time to elementary school when we did long division. We divided numbers and we looked at the process and the steps, and we focused on what steps we did. And the steps were, I look at this number out here, the divisor, and I see how many times it goes into, and then I go one number at a time. And then once I find a number, I say, okay, 59 goes into that one time. So I put 1 here because 1 times 59 will give me 59. And then I subtract, and then I get a result, and then I bring down the next term. And then I do the same thing. 59 goes into 429 7 times, and then 7 times 59, bring it down here, subtract, and then so on and so on and so on. Give me 1 second. Someone asked me a question. Okay, so that's the process of doing it with numbers. And then we said, okay, we have polynomials. And then a lot of you were like, oh, no, this is horrible. A lot of moans. I can imagine if we were in class, I'd hear a lot of moans and and or this sound, right? I don't know what to call that sound where you just go, right? So we did the same thing. We looked out here and we said, okay, we have x minus 2. How many times does x minus 2 go into this first term? And so some of you are like, huh? So I said, okay, just look at this first term here, x, and ask yourself, what do I have to multiply this by to get this? How many times does x go into x cubed? Well, x squared, right? Because x squared times x will give me x cubed. So that's what I put here. So I put an x squared here. And so what I need to do is I need to say, okay, now I have this. I got to multiply it to that. But there's 2 pieces here. So I got to multiply it to each one, distributive property. So x squared times x gives me, not x squared, it gives me x cubed. And then x squared times negative 2 is negative 2x squared, right? And so here's the part where some of you asked about parentheses, because I'm going to subtract, right? That's the next step we do. We subtract. But I'm going to subtract this whole thing. So I got to subtract this group. So I'm subtracting this group, so I put in parentheses. So this really means, so now let's subtract. Let me show you what that means. X cubed minus x cubed. Well, that's a 0, right? X cubed minus x cubed is 0. And now here's the tricky part. It's not tricky, but pay attention. 4x squared minus negative 2x squared. So I'm subtracting a negative. So what's minus and negative? This becomes plus, right? So 4x squared minus negative 2x squared becomes plus, so I get 6x squared. Okay, because I'm subtracting. This is why we put in parentheses. Someone asked me yesterday, why are you putting those numbers in parentheses up there? Because I'm subtracting this whole thing, and when I get here, I'm subtracting this whole thing. So kind of distributing 4x squared minus negative 2x squared. Okay, so this becomes plus, so that's why I get 6x squared. And now the next step is bring down the next term, minus 16x. Okay, so next, what do we do? Well, let's ask ourselves, how many times does x go into 6x squared? What do I have to multiply to get 6x squared? Well, I need a positive 6, so I put up here plus 6. And I need another x, because x times x will give me that x squared. So I put plus 6x up here. And now I multiply. What's 6x times x? That's 6x squared. And now what's 6x times negative 2? Minus 12x. Okay. And so now I'm going to subtract that. And so 6x squared minus 6x squared, gone. negative 16x minus negative 12. Well, minus negative becomes positive. So negative 16x plus 12x is minus 4x. And now let's bring down the next term, which is actually the last term. And so now we have negative 4x plus 8. So then we got to ask ourselves, how many times does x go into negative 4x? Well, they already have 1x, so all I'm missing is a negative 4. So negative 4. Because negative 4 times x is negative 4x. Negative 4 times x gives me negative 4x. And now negative 4 times negative 2 gives me positive 8. And so now when I subtract the whole thing, so subtract parentheses. And so negative 4x minus negative 4x, well, this becomes plus, right? So negative 4x plus 4x will give me 0. And 8 minus 8 is also 0. So we get 0, so there's no remainder. This is the remainder. There's no remainder. And we like that. So that means this is my answer. And so what does that mean? That means this times this will give me that. Huh? What do you mean, mister? Okay, let's go back. When you're confused, if you don't understand, let's go back. When we divide here, like when we divided, and I know this is a mess right here. When he divided 101,952 by 59, and we got 1728, right? When we did that, that just means this times this gives me that, right? That's why we're dividing, because when we divide, we're trying to figure out what multiplied to what we're dividing by to get us that answer. So the same thing works with polynomials. When I divide, and this is the whole purpose, when I divide this cubic by this binomial, I want to figure out what had to multiply to that to give me that. And it's this times this gives me what's inside the house. Okay. Any questions? If you're not 100% clear on this, that's okay. That's okay. It isn't the easiest or the smoothest thing to do, dividing polynomials along division. But before we move on, are there any questions? Okay, I'll give you a minute to copy this stuff down. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So did anyone actually get it right when you tried it yourself in the warm-up? Or was it just a big mess that you really couldn't go on and you got stuck? Because I'm thinking most of you got stuck and didn't know what to do next, which is fine, totally fine. But I just was wondering if anyone actually got through it and go, hey, I actually did. I got a 0 down there. You messed up at the end, but you were getting there. Okay, that's good. That's good. All right, let's try the next one. So we have 3x cubed plus 2x squared minus 37x plus 12 divided by the binomial x plus 4. So the first number is the dividend. 3x cubed plus 2x squared minus 37x plus 12. And that goes inside the house. And then we put x plus 4 on the outside. Okay. First thing we want to do is I want to make sure that I have everything represented here. Okay. Because if you don't have everything represented in descending order, it may mess you up. So you may have to put a placeholder in there. So if you look here, I have x to the third power, and then x to the second power, x to the first power, then constant. Okay, so it worked. So I have everything. If I was missing one of these, and we'll see that later on, if I was missing one of those, like if I was missing an x to the first power, like if I didn't have this, I would have to put a 0x right there, because you still want to represent it, because it's kind of like place value. You want to have everything represented, so when you bring things down, it doesn't mess things up. So we're good here. We have x to the third, x to the second, x to the first, constant. That polynomial has every piece in it. So it's going to help us out. So first thing I ask myself, look at this x and look at this 3x cubed. What do I have to multiply x by to get 3x cubed? Basically, what's missing? Well, I need a 3, right? And then I need 3 x's, so I already have 1 x, so I'm going to multiply x squared. Okay, 3x squared, because 3x squared times x will give me 3x cubed. But remember, I got to multiply to this and this. So 3x cubed, and then 3x squared times 4 is plus 12x squared. And then I'm going to subtract. So I'll stop here. Any questions? I'll stop at every step. So if anyone's confused, you can say, wait, what? Say that again? Okay, so I'm looking at the chat. So if you have any questions, just put them in the chat. If I'm going too fast again, tell me in the chat. Okay, so now we're going to subtract. And so again, how do we subtract? 3x cubed minus 3x cubed. Usually and you want that. That's the whole reason you put this number up here, because you want this first number to cancel out, because you want it to be the same thing. So that's usually what happened. That's what's supposed to happen. Not usually. That is what's supposed to happen. So that one's gone. 3x cubed minus 3x cubed. And now we have 2x squared minus positive 12x squared. So that's easy. 2 minus 12 is negative 10. And don't forget their x squared. And now let's bring down the next one. Minus 37x. And are we good there? So all I did was subtracted my result, and then I'm left with negative 10x squared, and then I brought down the next term, which is minus 37x. And so what I'm going to do next is I'm going to ask myself, okay, again, look at here, x, what do I need to make it negative 10x squared? Well, I need a negative 10. And then I also need, since this is x squared, I need another x. So minus 10x. So now let's multiply. Right? To put the number right here, we need to multiply this times x. And that's negative 10x squared. And that's exactly what we want. We want it to be the same because they're going to cancel out. The second one's usually doesn't cancel out, so that's fine. Negative 10x times 4 gives us negative 40x. Yeah? So I'm going to subtract that. Okay, I'll stop. Okay, so now I'm going to subtract. So negative 10x squared minus negative 10x squared. Well, that becomes plus, right? So negative 10x squared plus 10x squared is 0. And so now negative 37x minus negative 40x. Well, minus becomes plus. So we're basically saying negative 37x plus 40x gives me positive 3x. And now I'm going to bring down the last term, which is a 12, plus 12. And so now I'm going to ask myself, what do I need to multiply x by to get 3x? Oh, that's easy. Just a 3, a positive 3. And so now let's multiply. 3 times x is 3x. 3 times 4 is, ooh, I like this. Look what's going to happen, is 12, is positive 12. And so now I'm going to subtract. 3x minus 3x, 0. 12 minus 12, 0. So my remainder is 0. And there's my answer. Okay. And then again, once you get your answer, that means this times this gives me that. Right? If you don't understand that, if you're saying, Mister, I'm confused. Okay, let's think about one problem. What's 15 divided by 3? 15 divided by 3, if I do this, 15 divided by 3 is 5, right? And so that means this times this gives me the inside. 5 times 3 is 15. That's how division works, right? Or if I wrote it like this, 15 divided by 3 is 5, but if I go the opposite direction, 5 times 3 equals 15. So that's what we're doing here with polynomials. When I divide, I want to know what times this gave me that polynomial. And that's what we're finding. This times this gives me that. And that's going to help us with graphing later. That's going to help us with finding zeros, with factoring. It's going to help us with a lot of stuff if we can divide like this. Now, I'm going to teach you a shorter way next week of how to divide polynomials. I'm going to teach you a shorter way. It's called synthetic division. But since synthetic division isn't in the standards, I have to show you this long way first, because this long way is the actual standard. Because when I show you the shorter way, you're going to be like, oh my God, why didn't you show us this first? What? There's an easier way to do this and you showed us the hard way first? Yeah, that's what's going to happen. Okay, any questions on how we did this one? So now we did a second one, and some of you are like, okay, I'm getting the hang of this. So guess what I'm going to ask you to do before we leave? I want you to do number 5. I want you to try number 5 on your own. And it should be less of a mess than you did in the warm-up. Now that you have 2 examples here, I want you to try number 5 on your own. Okay, so I'll give you 5 minutes to try number 5. Look at 3 and 4 as examples. All right, time is up. So I started doing it here. So let's see if you can compare what you were doing. So I started off with x squared first. No, stop the timer. There you go. Start off with x squared first, because x squared times 2x is minus 2x cubed. Right? I'm sorry, is 2x cubed. And then we're going to subtract it, because we want to know how many times, what do I have to multiply this by to get this? And I already have the 2. And I have 1x, so I need 2 more x's. So that's all I need is 2x, so x squared. All right, since we're multiplying 2 x's means x times x, which is x squared. So x squared times 2x is 2x cubed, and then x squared times 7 is plus 7x squared. Then I subtract the whole thing. So 2x cubed minus 2x cubed, gone. 5x squared minus 7x squared is negative 2x squared. Bring down the 19x. So what do I need to multiply 2x to get negative 2x squared? Well, I already have the 2, but I don't have it negative, so I'm going to put minus, and then I need an x, right? So it's minus x, because negative x times 2x is negative 2x squared. And then negative x times 7 is negative 7x. And then let's subtract that. So negative 2x squared minus negative 2x squared is 0, and that's what we always want. We always want that first term to cancel because that's why we're putting this number up here, or that monomial up there. So we can get it out. And so now we do negative 19x minus negative 7x. Well, minus a negative becomes positive, so negative 19x plus 7x becomes negative 12x. And then we bring down the last term, which is minus 42. So we ask ourselves, what do we multiply 2x by to get us negative 12x? Well, 2x is positive, so we're going to need a negative and 6, right? Because 6 times 2 is 12. And then the 2 already has an x, so I don't need any more x's. So now let's multiply. Negative 6 times 2x is negative 12x. And then negative 6 times 7 is, ooh, I like this, minus 42. I like it when it looks the same like that because I'm going to subtract now. Subtract this, and I get negative 12x minus negative 12x. That's 0. Negative 42 minus negative 42. Well, these become a plus. So negative 42 plus 42 is 0. That's my remainder. And so I'm done. And that means this times that gives me the inside. Not so bad when you keep doing it over and over again. We will practice again, but we will not see this again till Tuesday because you have a 3-day weekend. All right, guys. So that's it for today. Please don't forget this. Please, I'll keep this up. I'll stay here until for the next minute or so you can copy it if you didn't finish copying. Or I'm going to put this up on YouTube today, and you can check it out there.